here is the top 25. The coaches poll is out. This is basically from the USA Today, the coaches poll. Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, all the way through 10. Michigan, A&M, Utah, Oklahoma 9, and Baylor 10. So there's Baylor and Oklahoma from the Big 12 in the top 10. To the next 10. And Alabama had 54 votes. Nobody else had more than 6. There's another Big 12 team in Oklahoma State, Oregon. NC State will have a writer who covers the Wolfpack tomorrow. Michigan State, Southern Cal 15. There's the Lincoln Riley bump. Pittsburgh have that opening game, is that right, against West Virginia? Miami at 17. Texas at 18. Look to the third column. No wins, no losses, 383 votes, and the third column is a 1. A coach put Texas at number 1, and whoever that is, he's kind of getting blasted for that. And who knows who it might be? Opponent? Someone that just said, okay, Wake Forest at 19, had a great year last year. Wisconsin, 20. Then Kentucky, future Big 12 member Cincinnati. There's Arkansas, Ole Miss, and future Big 12 Houston at 25.
Yeah, I tweeted about this earlier on Texas, and I think I've said it before, but I'm not doing this to dog Texas. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I know that might sound disingenuous, but it's true. Just let them get there. We like Steve Sarkisian. Like Craig and I had this, after we interviewed him last year at Big 12 Medias, we had this look at each other and we were like, oh crap, he's great. And, because when you build up Texas as a villain in your head, when they have someone you're rooting for as the head coach, it makes it hard to keep that villain at the same status. So for Texas's sake, for everybody I know and love who is a Longhorn alum or fan, I would just like them to let it grow naturally. You don't get an apple orchard from one seed, man. You got to really let the crop grow. But they keep wanting to be all of a sudden just like Vince Young is back again. But what that does is it's insulting to the coaches you have now to have to try to claw out of those expectations and deal with the entitlement. And it's insulting to those guys like Vince Young and Roy Miller and all those dudes who built that thing. Yep. Who absolutely, and before that, Texas was a good team. They were good, but Mac Brown and those guys made them great. And one of the best college football teams of all time was the 05 team. And one of the greatest college football games of all time. That's over. These kids on the roster now were at most 4 years old when that happened.
I fully agree with you. But I will say this, Paul. This isn't them voting for them.
Yeah,
though.
no, it's not.
This is some random coach putting that 1 there. So this ain't Sark going, hey, I'm gonna really get these expectations high as I possibly can. I think that the last person that wanted to see a 1 next to their name was Texas. I think that the culture around Texas now that they're trying to build, it appears, with Chris Del Conte is one of, all this other, preseason, give them the benefit of the doubt, all that, we've seen that be the wrong play time and time again. And on occasion, they will rise up and win that Sugar Bowl with Sam Ehlinger. And then you're like, okay, here they are, they're back. And that will proclaim they're back. And they haven't been back since that moment. What was that, 3-4 years ago now at this point. So, I think nobody finds it crazier than them that they get hyped up to this level. And I'm sure they're going to embrace it. And there's a chance that they could be legitimately very good this year. There's certainly a segment of people that think so, but I will give them the pass here that this isn't their fault. This is, Nick Saban, because he plays them early in the year, deciding, let me hang that first place vote out there. Or perhaps it was Jimbo doing it, or, just somebody.
Jeff
because
Traylor?
Jeff Traylor, because UTSA plays them early on. That's playing chess with the preseason poll, but, I'm sure there's people smart enough to think that way. But, that's not their fault, but they are going to get the backlash as though they voted for themselves.
It's almost like, and Paul, let them breathe. Let them get to a point where they have success and then breathe and sustain it.
You're right.
Jermaine Bell said this. Let's not forget they did bring in the best wide receiver transfer and join them along with some of the one of the best quarterbacks. Jermaine, that's true.
No, it's not.
But
no, it's not. Jordan Addison's the best wide receiver transfer.
There you go. But number 1 vote, a first place vote. It's like, did Saban put that in there because Alabama plays him in week 2? He doesn't have to play that game, but somebody did it. And usually they do allow the coaches' votes to be available I have not seen that so far.
Well, and we don't even know which head coaches even vote. Like, I mean, there's probably more assistants that vote than regular coaches. We've heard that from enough coaches to know that they don't.
Sometimes media relations.
Yeah, like they don't put a lot of time and effort. I think towards the end of the year, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, let me see that because I need to see where we kind of are set up and our opponents and how that's all. But like early on, preseason number 1 week poll, yeah, I don't think that they care all of that much. But it's like I said, somebody might be playing checkers, UTSA or Alabama with that first place vote. Look, Jermaine and anybody else, I think Texas is going to be good. I get fooled by them every year. Every year I come in expecting them to be better than they are, like a lot of people. I think the game, though, is that people just want to be right. And so you do it every year. You vote them high. Eventually, see, told you, you're going to be right. It might take you 6 years to do it, but eventually in year 6, you can go, see, I told you they were back. And it's been like this contest to see who was right. And there's been a bunch of whiffs, but maybe this year is the year because of Quinn Ewers and Sark has settled in and the transfers they've gotten and Bijan in probably his last year. But, there's also plenty of reasons that people have legitimately to say that this is still not going to be their year, that they'll be better, but not quite to what people think because of, not having that toughness level or especially on the lines, that depth and toughness that, you might see around the rest of the Big 12 or around the country for that matter. But, yeah, they're going to be a fascinating experiment because all of it seems lined up for them to be very good. But you got to remember, too, that same can be said for a lot of other teams that they're playing. So that's why, the fun is about to start with us actually seeing the real deal.
Jermaine was trying to clarify it. He goes, I actually was talking about USC,
gotcha.
Addison, legit top 10, not so much Texas.
Gotcha.
Anonymous votes and great feedback. Coaches poll votes don't come out until the end of the season as far as their final vote. There you go. Thank you to Joe for clarifying that as well.
Yeah, somebody, like some intern at some random college right now is getting – he's got the world on fire, and he's like in Maryland or something, and he just put I'm going to get everybody going. I'm going to put Texas at number 1.
Well, and the other thing is it just could be a kid or a person who's a huge Quinn Ewers fan. Just believes, But
I wanted to say elsewhere, I guess going through the poll, I mean, Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, duh. That's just
Clemson, yeah.
Well, I don't even really include Clemson. I think that those 3 are just those are the 3. That's going to be the 3 until they're not the 3 anymore. And then Clemson has sort of been until last year, which has still been like a career year for most schools, but for them was a down year. They're going to be really interesting. The quarterback situation and it's going to be really, really interesting to see Clemson. Going elsewhere, I mean, we could talk about all of them.
Well,
but
let's do that. I'm going to mention you guys respond. One of you, Notre Dame.
I think a little bit overrated seeing they had a new coach.
Did they beat a ranked team last year?
I don't think so.
Again, they're good, and Freeman has had a really good offseason, but that's a little high.
They're going to be good. I'm fascinated to see what Marcus Freeman does with the reins, and he's already off to a great start. Off-season wise, he did about as good as you'd want him to do. But now, let's see out on the field what it looks like. But yeah, I expect them to be good, and I expect them to be right there flirting with the top end of this poll.
All right, Jermaine. Again, Smokey, please. I never said Texas was good. Texas, they're a legit top 50 team. Everyone get off of Jermaine. Michigan 6 coming off a great year they had last year. A&M 7.
Yeah, they got to. I mean, they're getting kind of the benefit of the doubt with the quarterback question mark. People are just kind of assuming that that's not going to be as important maybe as it will be for some other teams, and that they're good enough elsewhere to overcome that. Like A-Chain, obviously you feel good about your skill guys. I start with him, but there's obviously others in the defense. We know the lines have been established for a while now. So there's a lot of that stuff that you don't really worry about, but the quarterback spot, that's the big, what's going to go on here?
I consider myself one of the world's leading experts on Jimbo Fisher. And
you've said this one about quarterback.
I will say this. If he gets his quarterback, he'll win.
Do you think he has him?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
You think he knows?
And I will tell you, if he has a mediocre quarterback, he'll be mediocre. He'll be good. I mean, but he did it. He did it with Christian Ponder and EJ Manuel, and he did it with Kellen Mond. That's great. But
did he what?
One games, okay. But he did not win big until Jameis happened.
Utah. I think they've earned number 8, if not even higher.
I think they're a little underrated.
I think it's going to be hilarious to see them walk into the Big 12 one day, given the way their fans have reacted to the very thought of that. No, I don't know what's going to happen with all of that, but yeah, they're going to be really stinking good.
Oklahoma and Baylor, 9, 10, 11. Oklahoma State, 3 consecutive Big 12 teams.
Yeah, I think the top of the Big 12 is kind of a crapshoot. I mean, if you want to go Oklahoma, that's very fair. If you want to go Baylor, I think that's very fair. Oklahoma State, I think there's an argument there as well. I'm not as high on them, though, because, I mean, you did lose Jim Knowles. Like, that's just not nothing. And I know you brought in Derek Mason, but you lost some pretty good players off that defense. And when the whole thing is like, and they got Spencer Sanders back, that doesn't convince me necessarily. That doesn't make me go like, oh my gosh, Spencer Sanders is back. I mean, he's a really good player. He's not a great player yet. If he's a great player, then yeah, I'm all in on that. But
he was the Big 12 first-team quarterback last year.
Yeah,
but
in a year where it wasn't really great.
Yeah, and that was a year where had Caleb Williams played more games than he did, it would have probably been Caleb Williams,
right.
But he didn't, and also lost to Oklahoma State. So.
And I don't want to treat Spencer Sanders like he's Jarrett Dagey. I mean, he's a good player, but he does make, quite a few mistakes that cost them. And so
he can win games for you. He can lose games for you.
But I do think that's fitting. 9, 10, 11, like they're jumbled like that in my mind too. And I don't think until we see them play that we're really going to know. And I do think this Oklahoma thing with Gundy, like that puts a little bit of a dent in them for me. It really does.
And that does not include what it could mean in recruiting. And that's when we'll have John Hoover on momentarily. Oregon 12, we've discussed NC State. We'll have a writer on tomorrow, Jonas Pope, the 4th on them.
I've been
Michigan
thinking
State has their quarterback back at 14. I just got that in the chat room or in the text line. Thanks for the note.
Yeah, Oregon with Dan Lanning, that's going to be really interesting to see kind of how he, changes that program and what they look like under him after, having the short stint, what felt like a short stint with Cristobal. So, yeah, Oregon will be really interesting to see in the Lanning era. NC State, I kind of feel like they were being sort of underrated. But, I mean, here they are at 13, so I can't really say that. And, yeah, Michigan State and Mel Tucker, they got a lot of swagger right now. They've got it going on in, recruiting off the field, and they feel like they're setting something up pretty special. You can't get spanked by, Ohio State the way you did last time.
No, you can't. Southern Cal, there's the bump with Lincoln Riley at 15. Pittsburgh, they lose their offensive coordinator. They lose their Pickett, the quarterback. They're at 16. Addison, White. God, they lost. That's right. I keep forgetting that he's gone. I hate the fact that he's gone for Pittsburgh's sake. Miami, 17. Texas, 18. Now, if you take away the Texas first-place vote, which is worth 25 points, I think, and let's say you put them at 15, then you're looking about that drops them all the way outside the top 20. So there's a little bit of a note there. Wake Forest, nice to see them. Wisconsin, always steady. You can always rely on them being a top 25 team. There's Stoops in Kentucky at 21, and 2 future Big 12 teams again in the last 5 at 22 and 25. Brigham Young, about the 4th or 5th team right outside the poll. Yeah, that seems to be.
I mean, that's to not be a top 25 team. It almost feels like the voters either don't really know much about them, or perhaps and I can't imagine it's this other thing that I'm about to say because again, it's this first preseason poll, but it's almost like they're waiting to see them play Baylor early on and say, okay, now but I don't need to see that. I think they're going to be good.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they won the Pac-12 last year.
They really did.